Good day, everyone. This is Daniel Pinarta once again, and I have a book here by Petrus van Maastricht entitled Theoretical Practical Theology, Volume 1 on Prolegomena. At this juncture, I will be reading from his definition of theology. Well, for me, most theologians would define theology as the study about God. Others would argue that it is the study of God Himself. Now, according to Maastricht in this book, theology is the doctrine of living for God through Christ. Now, this theoretical, practical Christian theology is nothing less than the doctrine of living for God through Christ. In other words, the doctrine that is according to godliness, as stated in First Timothy chapter 6, verse 3. And likewise, the knowledge of the truth that is according to godliness. Titus chapter 1, verse 1. For this reason, in the church fathers, it is sometimes also called the fear of God, the life of God, and even the work of God, in accord with Scripture, since it is proved from the Scriptures. Maastricht continue on with this introduction that it calls theology the words of life. John chapter 6, verse 68, and Acts chapter 5, verse 20. It portrays habitual theology or theological skill by the phrase living for God. Romans chapter 6, verse 11, and 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 15. The entirety of this theology is occupied in the forming the life of a person and directing it toward God insofar as everything encountered in the scriptures flows together and aims at its end, as if it as a central point, and that this becomes, as it were, the broadest possible theme. From all this, it follows that theology is most correctly defined as the doctrine of living for God through Christ. It is confirmed by reasons. First, in proof of this, we will presuppose every knowable complex that admits of an orderly arrangement of a great number of conclusions pointing in the same direction constitutes a science or discipline. In accordance with the preceding paragraph, living for God is knowable complex of this sort. Yet, according to Maastricht, living for God is not comprehended within the object of just any discipline. For there is no science that teaches how to live for God through Christ except Christian theology. For this reason, we understand that it is, without a doubt, its true and proper business. And because nothing is offered in theology that does not incline to this point, namely, that a person's life should be directed toward God. Then, whether on account of its end or on account of its means, either way, it remains certain that this is its adequate object, and therefore theology is nothing other than the doctrine of living for God through Christ. Second, we likewise presuppose, since God made all things for the sake of man, and man for God, so that God is the ultimate end of man and all of human actions, it is necessary that some teaching be given that directs man and all he has to that point. There is no discipline that assumes to do this for itself, since every discipline is committed to its own peculiar end. For example, medicine to the happiness of the human body, that is, to health. ethics to the moral blessedness of individuals, politics to the social blessedness of the state, economics to that of the household, and so on in all other disciplines. From this, we conclude that theology alone directs the ends of all, proper to each, to a certain common and highest end, which is God. So that in this discipline, God indeed might receive his own glory, but in God and his glory, we might receive perfect blessedness. And these two come together if we live for God. Thirdly, to this we could add that in this definition, all the laws of definition coincide. For living for God explains the very essence of the definitive theology and is adequate for it, since there is nothing in theology that does not concern this, nor does anything concern this that does not belong to theology. For this reason, it must emerge that the doctrine of living for God through Christ supplies the most genuine definition of theology. Therefore, theology is doctrine. Isaiah chapter 51, verse 4 pointed out. For this reason, it is everywhere called teaching and instruction. Likewise, a pattern of doctrine. Romans chapter 6, verse 17. It is also a teaching according to godliness in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 3. Moreover, we call it doctrine, not because we reject the names of the philosophical habits of understanding, knowledge, wisdom, prudence, and arts. For we see that in scriptures, theology is commonly designated sometimes as understanding, sometimes knowledge, sometimes wisdom, sometimes prudence, and it is mentioned instead of as an art in equivalent terms, as senses that have been exercised for the discernment of good and evil. Now, theology is not so bound to any of these habits that the rest are excluded, but rather it contains the perfection of all of them par excellence, for which reason we prefer broader term doctrine, so that all the habits that can be included in it. There is yet another underlying reason for this appellation. Sacred theology originates preeminently through doctrine or revelation. By contrast, any other kinds of sciences owe their origin to the nature and human investigation, since their principia are innate in us and are developed and moved forward to their own completion by sense, observation, experience, comparison, and induction. Yet at the same time, the genuine principia of saving theology as such are not present in us by nature and cannot be developed or moved forward to any completion by study or industry alone. I add as a third reason that not only systematic theology or theological precepts, but also habitual theology, or the skill of living for God, which arises from the precepts, depends upon a divine faith, and so therefore must also be taught or revealed by God. And that ends my reading on this subject on the definition of theology by Petrus van Maastricht. And once again, a very pleasant day to all of us. And thank you for your time in listening and viewing this particular reading. God bless everyone.